This is a really quick run through of everything I've knit in October. I've had a really good month knitting wise. It's actually been really great. I don't think I've ever knit this much before. This is not a highly edited episode of Frog Off. There's not going to be fancy titles and graphics and, you know, fun music and stuff. It's just going to be me running through my stash, and I hope that's okay. And if you wait around, I do have a bigger version of Frog Off coming with this project. Ooh. So this is a sample for a jumper. This is kind of the bottom of a jumper, if you can see. I've worked this up from wool from my stash. I actually have loads of this white acrylic. I think it's Stylecraft Batik in cream, and I've knit up this sample for a project that's coming soon. It's an Aran project. I don't have a pattern for this project. I'm just going off what this character wears on the television. So what I've done is just basically stare at them and illegally download this jumper just by looking at it. So I swatched out some of the stitches I think are used on the jumper, and I've knit them up, and I think they've come out quite well. So that's that one. Next up, we have another jumper from a different film. This is actually the same wool that was used in the Little Women scarf. I had just enough left to swatch up a nice little sample. If you recognize what film this is from, you're a very cultured person with great taste in movies. I imagine I'll make this jumper in full as well as a Frog Off project. In my research for this jumper, it came up that they wouldn't be releasing a pattern for this jumper. The original maker of the jumper actually said in this interview, no, I won't be releasing a pattern, but I could put this up on Ravelry if it comes out nicely and people are interested. So that's the sample section over. Next up, we're at the finished project section. Hooray! This was an earlier version of Frog Off. I actually made 2 of these, but I did give one away, so it won't appear in this video today. This was the hollow oak cable headband. I think it used up around 20 grams, maybe. It was a really fun knit. It was really fun to design. I did want a really 3D bobbly headband to put on my head because it's become absolutely freezing here in Ireland lately. The next finished item is this Little Women scarf, and my god, I love this scarf. I wear it all the time. It's really cozy, and it's just the right size to go under your jacket, which is really, really handy. This one knit up quite quickly. I was a bit frustrated. I couldn't see exactly what Joe was wearing in the references that I found in the advertisements and stuff. So I just did my best guess, and I did try to make something that was practical. You can see that the rib has helped the curling issue a bit, but still just really wants to curl up in a little ball and cry, which I would say is relatable. Next up are the mittens from The Office. I don't know why I made these. No one will ever wear these. You can't use your phone when you have them on. They're different sizes. The thumb on this one is hilariously stubby and small, but I did make them this month, so I figured they could go in the pile. They could go in the finished pile, which is a really good feeling to have a finished pile. Next up, another headband. I didn't film myself making this. I really just whipped it up one night to see how much of the yarn I could use out of my scrap bag, because my scrap bag was really, really full before I made the dog jumper, which I'll talk about in a moment, but it was really full. It was like a sandwich bag full of yarn, and some of the balls were big enough to maybe make something. So I've made this headband. It's really warm, and I meant what I said in the video when I said I am now a converted person in terms of headbands. I used to think that these were a little bit cringe and maybe shouldn't leave the house, but since then I've become the woman who wears a woolly hat with a big hole in the top into the village. So it's been really nice to discover that about myself. In the UFO pile, we have the Aran cushion cover. I never came back to this. I ran out of steam on it. I think it's second sock syndrome. I mean, the first half of the cushion cover is finished. It's not very good, but it is the first Aran thing I ever knit, so I wanted to keep it so I could judge the mistakes I made later, like go back and laugh at them maybe. But as you can see, I just never finished that second one. This wool is really fun to work with, but it's so lively and strong because it's real wool and it's kind of not very treated. So this wool just wants to jump off the needles. It just wants to spring off into the void. When I work with it, all I do is drop stitches and stuff. And because I just really, really wanted the second half of the pillowcase to be, if not perfect, then quite good, because I can just turn the pillow around and have the good side pointing out at the room. So I'm going to come back to this when I feel like I have the energy and the motivation to actually do it correctly. Another thing I worked into this month was the Halloween lace. It's the 26th today, and I can just say right now that this will not be done for Halloween. I started this to use up as much of my mercerized cotton as I could. I actually have loads and loads of this sparkly black cotton, and I think I have one ball left of this orange cotton, and I figured a kind of spooky decoration would be a nice way to use them up. I don't know what on earth I was thinking when I bought the colours. You can't make anything else other than Halloween decorations with black and orange. Next up, in the UFO pile, we have this, and this isn't the one that I'm working on. I will show you that in a second. This is the old one with the really tight, really ridged, slipped stitches. I can't even look at this jumper. It makes me so upset that I put so much time into this much of a jumper, because it's fingering weight and it's taking absolutely forever. I don't know why I chose a fingering weight wool project as my first garment knit. I think it was a bit doomed from the start, but there's other mistakes here. The increases are wrong. They're just wrong. I don't know what happened, but they're not correct. Well, I think they're okay on that side, but on this side it just looks absolutely terrible. And this is going in the frog pile. It's going to turn back into a ball and it'll be like it never happened. Here's of course the real jumper. And I feel like as well, this didn't show up too much in my video about discovering what twisted stitches were and how not to do them, but the tension line in this, it's just unbelievable. Look at that. Before I learned how to knit properly and after. So again, I've just been chipping away at this. This is like my desk project, I suppose. My chair project. If I just have a few spare minutes in the evening, or if my college work is a lecture that I have to listen to, I'll just sit here and chip away at this. I am further on in this one than I was in the other one before I started to send it to the graveyard. One thing is that these lace holes are not showing up very nicely. I'm hoping that blocking will possibly help this out, because they did come out nicely in the scrapbook when I made samples for this and I put it in the scrapbook. They came out a lot nicer. I have the scrapbook here. I found it. Yeah, so once these were pinned and stretched out a bit, the holes, the flowery holes, showed up really, really well. So I'm not hoping, I'm praying that the jumper comes out as nice as this, but it probably won't, let's be real. Another thing I worked on this month was this, I don't know if you'd call it a scarf really. I was picking out a few stitches to try, learning sort of lacy stitches. So there's a zigzag border, there's a cat's paw sort of insertion, I think that's what they called it. And this panel is basically knit 3 together, make 1, knit 1, make 1, knit 3 together. It's really interesting and nice lace. I think when this is pulled out and blocked, it's going to look really, really nice. What I've been working on this project is actually this lacy border. All this needs, I'm going to lose some stitches here. All this needs is this border all the way around, and this border is only 4 stitches big. So it really won't take a long time once I get back to it. The problem is, I've never worked with a fluffy yarn like this before. This stuff does not frog. It would literally rather snap than unravel, because it's so fluffy. So every time I try and frog this yarn, it just breaks. So when this is done, I'm going to have to either wear it or throw it in the bin, because I can't recycle the yarn. But we'll see. That sounds like a later on problem. One thing I knit, well, I didn't knit it, I crocheted it, and I'm going to put pictures up because I don't have any pictures. It was a Halloween costume for a dog. We made a Gentle Ben from The Simpsons hat for a dog who is much bigger than my dog, who is modelling it in this photograph. I'm on a yarn buying ban. I have so much spare yarn that I said, no, I'm not buying any more. So somebody else bought me this ball of yarn to make the dog hat out of, and the dog hat did not use up all the yarn, so I'm making another headband. It's a bit shameful, but I am making another headband. There's nothing I can really do. I just can't help myself. This is a crocheted headband, and so double crochets done around the post actually. So it's going to come out delightfully chunky. Whoever wears this is going to look like a UFO. The headband is the grey part, and the top of their head is the bubble that the alien sits in. But it's really chunky, really, really soft, and it's been really fun to just mindlessly sit there and crochet around posts for an hour or two. I think I made this in the car in the dark, which will tell you how simple that the pattern actually was. Another thing I made this month was the dog jumper. It was really, really nice to get rid of some scraps. It really was. This whole sandwich bag was full of balls. It was really, really full of scrap, and I just didn't feel right throwing it in the bin. So I made the stripy jumper. All of the balls were about this size, maybe 10 grams. A lot of them were less. A lot of them were just wool that I was using as scrap yarn in projects. This is the wool that the other dog ate. She actually stole this and pulled it apart.